Welcome back to another episode of The Cure for Cowardice. Now, in this one, I wanted to talk about failure and mistakes. Now, I turn 24 next week, and in the short, almost 24 years that I have been alive, I have made more mistakes than almost anybody that I know, by a lot. Now, when I say mistake, I mean something that I'm not talking about things that were outside of my control. I'm talking about situations where, had I put in a little bit more work, or done a little bit more research, or just given a little bit more of a shit, and been a little bit more careful about my actions, situations that I probably could have avoided. Now, say what you will about mistakes, but they are very powerful teaching lessons. And if you've ever heard the saying, I teach so that I can give the lesson without the scar, I have a lot of scars. I have made more mistakes in the past 24 months than I could possibly count. And again, I'm not defining mistakes as situations where I did what I could and the result was outside of my control. I'm defining mistakes as situations that the outcome could have been significantly better had I just actually tried harder, or done more research, or thought about it more, or had I not avoided situations until they blew up in my face. Now, I think there's a couple ways to look at this. Obviously, nobody wants to make mistakes. That's that's what we're trying to avoid. That's why we have the saying, work smarter, not harder. Because the harder that you work, if you're pushing in the wrong way or in the wrong direction, all you're doing is making the entire thing more difficult and increasing the likelihood of failure. But the plus side to making mistakes is that, for the most part, even if you don't remember the circumstances that led up to it, or what exactly you did wrong, you remember the lesson. And if you don't, life has a funny way of presenting you with the same situations, and you will keep making those mistakes until you learn your lesson. Over and over. And I speak as somebody who has repeated the same lessons for lots of my life. Or repeated the same mistakes. Now, it's easy when you make these dumb mistakes. It's easy to beat yourself up. And I think that to some degree, we should do that. I think that in our society and in the world today, when somebody messes up, when they screw something up that they had the power to not mess up, the most common thing that I hear is, don't be so hard on yourself, or it could happen to anyone, or this and that and this and that. And the implication with that is that it isn't our fault. And that is just plain and simple wrong, because it is our fault. Had we not made that mistake, the situation that we are now suffering from wouldn't have happened, or it wouldn't have happened in the way that resulted in the level of suffering it did. And so there's a certain power which comes from accepting things as your fault. And I think that that's where we need to start. Now, I think that mistakes can be powerful so long as we learn from them. And that's the trick, is actually learning from them and then retaining that knowledge for the next time that we're presented with a similar situation. It's like Hormozi's definition of learning is same circumstance, new behavior, or same situation, new action, whatever you want to call it. And if you are presented with the same situation and you act in the same way, then you have learned nothing. And I think one of the big unlocks that I'm experiencing right now is I am not just becoming keenly aware of mistakes that I am making in real time and mistakes that I've made recently and in the past even, but I'm also doing my very best to become aware of the lessons within and what I can learn from them. Now, onto the topic of failure. I think that's something that we all fear a lot. And what it comes down to is we're not thinking about it consciously like this, but what it comes down to is we're afraid that we're going to try something new, we're not going to do it right, we're going to fail at that thing, which is going to lead to a bad situation, which is going to lead to another bad situation, which is going to lead to death. And that's like the real great motivator that none of us really acknowledge, is somehow or another we feel that the mistakes and the failures that we have are going to lead to death. And if we can just understand and accept that there is no progress without failure, that failure is not the opposite of success, but it is a requirement of success, I think we can be a lot more okay with it. And one of the things that I repeat to myself and to others if I'm training them at work or whatever it might be is fail hard, fail fast, fail often. Because the only way that you can truly fail and experience defeat in the truest sense is if you quit. So as long as you don't quit, you have not been defeated. You have not truly failed. It's like the saying, I either win or I learn. So I think that's what I got today. I'm talking about these things because I've just experienced a string of failures and mistakes slapping me in the face. Old ones that resurfaced that I had to finally deal with. And then just mistakes that I made recently, like within the last 48 hours recently. And I think all we can do is take stock of the situation and try and learn what we can and move forward. And I need to stop making decisions out of emotion. That's something that I really am working on. I need to stop letting my heart choose for me and start laying out the facts from an objective standpoint. So anyway, that's what I got for now. I'll catch y'all on the flip side.